दिसतंय का आता? Good afternoon all. I welcome you all on behalf of 50 Chinchwad branch of WIRC of ICAI. I hope you all are having a good time and making the most of this lockdown period. I am CA Rinisha Bafna and today I am going to present on GST registration and returns. I'll just wait a minute before getting started. Okay, I will begin in just a minute. Begin. Today's topic is GST registrations and returns. For this, I am going to start with registrations, and as time permits, I will continue with extra issues also which we face while doing this registration and returns. So today's agenda will be: first I will take registration and related provisions, then I will take the procedure for registration and various forms which are there for registration, then I will be taking up issues which will be followed by returns, then issues relating to returns, and then some other tools which will be there for learning. So let us begin with our first topic, that is GST registration. We'll see first who is liability arises from section 22, person liable to register. First we'll see what is the aggregate turnover inclusions and exclusions while calculating the limit for GST registration liability. See, for aggregate turnover, the definition is given in section 2 of the Act. The turnover is to be calculated on pan-GAN basis, and it is to be calculated for whole of India and not just for one state or one union territory. Even if the registration is for a particular state, it is the applicability which you have to see that will be for the full year. First thing we'll see what are the inclusions in the aggregate turnover to be calculated. First thing will be coming as taxable supplies. All that we are supplying as sales, that will come under taxable supplies. Second will be exempts and exports. Whatever exempt sales we are conducting and exports, that will also be considered for. Obviously GST is not leviable on it, but for calculation of turnover limit, that is to be considered. And third thing is interstate supplies. That is, even if you are taking the registration for a state and interstate supplies you are making, that also will have to be included in. Second thing, what is to be excluded from this? GST tax amount. By this we mean that only the net value of the invoice is to be taken and not the gross value. Tax is to be excluded. CGST, SGST, IGST, that all is not to be considered for calculating the aggregate turnover. Then we take as inward supplies liable to RCM. After inward supplies, inward supplies is our actually for our input. However, because the other party is not liable to tax, we are paying tax from the aggregate turnover. Other everything has to be included in our turnover. So one important point to be taken is while we are calculating the turnover, which is to be taken as pan basis, state basis. After this, we will see what is the registration limit which has to be taken. See, if it is exclusively goods, now the limit has been increased from 20 lakhs to 40 lakhs. Previously, lakhs, which has now been increased to 40 lakhs. However, there are special category of states. For them, the limit is 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs. Now, there is a list of categories which are not same for goods and goods or services. The various states have taken their own call, mostly the northeastern states. So, for them, the limit is 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs. Enjoy a registration free limit of 40 lakhs. And if you are supplying any services or goods and services both, then the limit will become 20 lakh. Even if you are supplying 80% services and 20% goods, still the limit will become 20 lakhs. And the same thing is for special category states. That also the limit is 10 and 20 lakhs depending on what the state has taken up. You get a list of this for which limit is applicable. Next thing, we are taking section 23, persons not liable to register. Now, who are those persons who are not liable to register? See, as we have seen in the definition, we have taken exempt supplies also for the calculated turnover. Say, for example, I am a person who is supplying exempt turnover of 20 lakhs and I have taxable turnover of 5 lakhs. Still, I am supposed to be liable to registration because my limit will not be 5 lakhs or 20 lakhs. It will be total 25 lakhs, and because it exceeds the limit of goods and services, I have to take a registration. Now, see, persons who have been exempt from taking the GST registration. For example, I am supplying such goods which are not liable to tax at all. So those goods will not be that person is not required to take a registration under GST. Second is wholly exempt from tax under CGST. That is leviable at all. I am supplying goods and my 100% goods comes under exempt category. Then I need not take a registration. Third category is similar to second one, which is if I am exempt under GST, then I need not take a registration. Fourth is an agriculturist. By agriculturist, it means a person who is doing agriculture by the cultivation. Those persons are also not required to take GST registration irrespective of the turnover limit. After these four, there are also certain categories which are notified by the government registration. So I'll take those categories one by one. See, first is to persons making interstate supplies of taxable services. If you are making interstate supply services, please note important the word here is services. If you are making interstate goods, then this exemption is not. It is only for services where turnover is not exceeding 20 lakhs. You will come to know when you will come to section 24 why this exemption has come here. This specifies categories of persons making interstate taxable supplies of handicraft goods, and then their turnover is up to 20 lakhs. If you are making interstate supplies of goods, then you are liable to register. But if you are making handicraft goods and your turnover is within 20 lakhs, then you are not liable to. Any person engaged in exclusive supply of goods and whose turnover does not exceed 40 lakhs. Now this exemption has come because earlier it was 20 lakhs, which was then the limit was increased to 40 lakhs. That's why this notification is there. After this, Arunachal, Assam, Himachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim and Uttarakhand. For these states, threshold is from 10 lakhs to 20 lakhs by the states. Next is to persons engaged only in making taxable supplies. Now, who are engaged, then they are liable to registration. But why they are exempt? Because their total tax is to be paid on reverse charge basis by the recipient and not by the taxpayer. So even if I am supplying taxable goods, but I am not liable to collect tax, or my tax is going to be paid by the other party who receives the goods, who receives the supplies. Then even if I am making a taxable supply, the other person is not liable. So I am not liable to register because my tax is totally going to be discharged by the recipient. Next is to suppliers of services through an e-commerce platform. If I am supplying my goods to an e-commerce and my turnover is not exceeding 20 lakhs, then I am not liable to register. Even if I am making it to an e-commerce operator, there were there were some queries before this. That's why this notification has come as a clarificatory. Specified categories of CTPs making taxable supplies of handicraft goods. Now, casual taxable persons are liable to register, even if they are not exceeding the limit, they are still liable to register. However, if they are making handicraft goods, then they will also enjoy a limit up to 20 lakhs. Next is to job workers making interstate supply of services to a registered person. So, if you are a job worker and you are making interstate supply services to a registered person, but your turnover is not exceeding 20 lakhs, then you can very well avail the option of not getting registered. After this, I am taking another section, that is mandatory registration. See, there are certain categories of persons for which we saw that the turnover limits are 20 lakhs, 40 lakhs and 10 lakhs for certain states. So these limits are there as a general rule. After this, we saw section 23, in which people who are, even if they are exceeding the limit, subject to the fulfillment of certain conditions, they are not required to registration. Now we are seeing the third category of persons who will be required to register under GST, even if their turnover does not exceed the limits. Even if they are making 1 rupee of sale, they will still be taxable. They will still be required to take a registration. See, those categories are covered over here. First is interstate taxable supply. Now your exemptions had come up because it is said that even if you make a 1 rupee of interstate taxable supply, you will be liable to register. So we saw that exemption related to services or handicraft. Interstate was the main catch. So here they make it mandatory, and thereafter that so that those categories of people are ruled out of registration. Second is casual taxable person making a taxable supply. Now casual taxable person is a person who does not have a regular place of business. That person will go to various states and places, sell his goods or services or make his supply. So if CTP, that is a casual taxable person, is making a taxable supply, then he is liable to take a registration. Now we saw it in an exemption that if he is supplying of handicraft goods, then he is exempt from taking a registration. Third thing is persons required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. Now those whoever are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism, they will have to take a mandatory registration. Then those people who are required to pay tax under 9(5), in this category, e-commerce operators and radio taxis and all are covered. They are required to take a mandatory registration, even if their turnover exceeds or not is not a question. Next is NRTB making taxable supply. Non-resident taxable person and casual taxable person, these two categories of people have to take a registration. Next is ISD. ISD is an input service distributor. Now what is an input service distributor? They are a kind of registration they are formed because suppose I'll explain you this with the help of an example. For example, I have a lot of branches all over India and I am billed at one place. I am not billed at various places. However, the expenses which I am incurring are liable to or apportionable. Various branches are supposed to take that credit. So for distribution of that credit for which that particular branch is liable, or that particular state or GST is supposed to take that credit, for distribution of such credit, an input service distributor is formed. So that those people are required to take a mandatory registration. If you are taking registration as an input service distributor, you are definitely supposed to take a registration. That comes by law. Next is e-commerce operator. If you are an e-commerce operator, then you are mandatorily required to take a registration. Next are those categories of people who are required to deduct tax under section 51 of GST Act. So those people who are required to deduct tax, even if they are making taxable, not taxable, required under any other section or not, registration. Then if you are supplying as an agent or otherwise of the principal, then also you are required to take a registration. See, by registration does not mean that you will necessarily have to pay taxes on it. That will all depend on what type of supply you are making, what is the time of supply, place of supply, etc. However, declared by government that you are supposed to take a registration, otherwise that will be regarded as violation of law. After that, similar to TDS, when you are required to collect taxes source under section 52, when TCS is to be done, that time also you are required to be taking a registration. And after that also, after this, whatever categories are left out, then as and when the government will seem necessary, then they will take this call of putting certain categories of people into mandatory registration. Till date, these many people are notified. Now we'll see how to register. This process flow which I am showing is for a general registration which is to be taken. Some special points are also there according to what type of registration you take. See how to do the registration. First you have to log in into GST site. For that, after that you can go in services, new registration, or there is a tab in the left corner of the home page which says new register as a taxpayer or register as a GST practitioner. So if you are registering as a taxpayer, that is you are a businessman or a professional, then you are supposed to take a tax registration under new taxpayer category. So after clicking on that, you have to fill a part A and part B. First, let's go to part A. In part A, you have to enter these very normal details, which is state, then legal name and PAN. Now, important is PAN is mandatory for all the categories other than, and he is allowed to register without a PAN. All categories of taxpayers will require a PAN to get their GST registration done. The legal name. Legal name is also an important point. Many people get wrong over here. When you are entering your legal name, make sure it matches your PAN. Only then the validation will take place and you will be able to proceed further in the process of registration. After that, you have to add an email ID and mobile number. See, for email ID and mobile number, make sure because you will have to immediately OTP verify with the help of OTP these two details. After you have entered all these 5 details in part A, you will be asked to put a CAPTCHA code and which will be preceded by an OTP verification. After OTP verification is done, a TRN will be generated. And after the TRN is generated, you have to use that TRN to do a login. See, in part B, you will go and you will log in using TRN and OTP. Again, you will receive a mobile OTP and email OTP and you have to login. The way you were doing it over here, new registration taxpayer, that way only in services, registration, new registration, you will go two times, two options. So there, second option is TRN. So you have to log in using TRN. After logging into TRN, you will have to fill up the form. See, this is after you will log in, you will see such a window, and there you have to fill in these various business details: promoter or partner, authorized signatory, authorized representative, principal place of business, additional place of business, goods and services, state specific information, and which will be followed by a final verification. You can see here in the top here it is written profile completed 5%. Now it is completed. When you go on filling all these mandatory fields, after filling of mandatory fields, you will find that at the end the profile will get 100%. After that only the verify will get enabled. So after you fill tabs under various heads, then you can complete the verification process. One important thing is you have to keep the documents ready in required size and format. I have covered a slide of what documents are required, and after this all filling of 100%, you can submit and verify your GST registration form. Yes, I'll just go to the next slide and tell you what are the documents required. One you need is PAN card. Second is Aadhaar card. Third you need is photographs. Now photographs of owners, partners, directors, etc. These all photographs you will need according to which kind of enter registry. After that, proof of address. This is a mandatory thing, and this requires this. There is a limit of size also to it. Plus, it should be clearly seen. So make sure you take this detail correctly. After that is bank account details. Now in bank account details, you can give a cancelled check. Then bank account details is required. After that, authority letter. Authority letter is required for those people like for a partnership deed or for a society or for HUF. You require that authority letter that the entity authorizes you to do the GST registration. So you have to get that signed letter and upload it. And then if it is a partnership, you need a partnership deed. If it is a company, you need an incorporation ticket. Or if it is something else, then according to that entity what it is there, you can take the registration. You upload this registration document over here. I have explained you this. According to this, the registration will get done. After this, you will get an ARN number. Within 15 days, the GST registration has to get done. If no, then if there are some issues, then you will get a reply from the officer that there is some issue relating to your registration. You have to reply to that. If everything is fine, then your registration will get final and you will get a GST number along with a login ID password. Now, when you log in for the first time this GST website, you get an option at the right top corner of login. But when you log in, this first time login, there is a that for first time login, click here. You have to click that login and then get your ID password registered, and then you can log in like you normally do. Next, I'll take a section 28, amendments in registration. See, there could be various changes and we need to amend our registration or the documents which we have taken. So there could be two types of amendments: amendments in core fields and amendments in non-core fields. What I mean by core fields, we'll check. See, first is if there is a change in the name of the business, be it a legal name or trade name, you can amend it through core fields. I'll just tell you what are the core fields and non-core fields, how to later. So these four categories of thing will be called as core fields change: the name change, address change, addition of certain category of persons. Now, who are these certain categories of persons? For a partnership firm, they could be partners. For a company, they could be directors, full-time directors, managing directors, kartas, etc. These all will be amounting to addition and deletion of certain specified categories of persons. And for this it will amount to an amendment in core field of registration. And any other field other than these four fields will be called as non-core fields. Understood? So this is any other fields other than that could be email ID, mobile number, or any additional place of business. This all will amount into non-core field. Now, what is the difference in core and non-core? What makes the difference? When you are when you are making an amendment, you have to make an application for that in form REG 14. So how do you access this tab? You have to take a registration tab, and from there amendment of registration of core field or non-core field. Now, if you are amending a core field, that is a core yani important. So if there is something important, then that will require the approval of an officer. And if it is a regular detail which needs to be updated, that will go under a non-core field, and for that there is no approval. Now, if you're amending a core field, then you will get an approval order from the officer in REG 14. If not approved, if there is an issue in it, then you will get a notice 03. And you have to reply to that notice, and then subsequently whether your reply will be approved or rejected will depend on the documents or the answers you give to them. Next, we are going to take is cancellation. Now, why somebody cancel a GST registration? There could be two scenarios wherein one taxpayer himself decides to cancel the registration, or the registration is cancelled by the officers you move to. See, let's see what are the conditions in which the taxpayer will cancel the registration. One is transfer or discontinuance of business. Now, if I have to sell my business, or I have to discontinue my business, I would like continue my GST registration. For that, I can make an application and go for the cancellation of my registration. Second is change in the constitution. Now, by this what I mean? Change in the constitution. Does it mean that constitution change is not allowed? No, it is allowed. It is allowed, and you can amend it through core field unless and until it does not change the PAN of the company or the entity. If there is a change in the PAN, then that is not editable, that is not amendable. If you are making such a change in your business which leads to the change in PAN, then you have to cancel your old register, apply for a fresh registration. Right? So in core field also we did not see something which gets converted into a proprietorship. Say there are two partners and one of them dies, retires or surrenders. Then there will be a change in the nature of the proprietorship. In that case, the PAN will also need to be changed, and that cannot be done through a core field amendment. That has to be done by cancellation and re-registration. So you're not liable to be registered. Maybe there comes a change in law, or your goods go under exempt category, or you are no longer in the limit. Then you are not required to take then you can go and apply for a cancellation. Earlier you were liable, now you're not liable, so you can definitely the cancellation. Now, when will officer be allowed to cancel of certain registered persons? First will be non-filing of returns. By non-filing of returns is if you do not file your returns for 6 consecutive months, and for composition taxpayers for 3 consecutive quarters, your registration can be cancelled by the officer by serving a notice on you. Then second is contravention of provisions of the Act. If you are doing something illegal or which is not allowed under the law provisions, then the officer can cancel your registration. And third thing is when the officer is able to notice that you have obtained your registration by means of fraud or any suppression of facts or any willful misstatement, then the officer can send an order for cancellation. Of cancellation is REG 16. Sorry, the cancellation during cancellation you are supposed to give a form, fill a form called REG 16 in which you have to declare your stock in hand details also. Now, stock in hand details are required for the officer to assess your liability and your turnover, etc. Second is in that form you also have to for your cancellation. That is, you are no more liable or whatever the 3-4 reasons which we have seen. Any reason which goes to you, you have to give that yes, we are cancelling for this. Now, for temporary registration. Now, there is a thing called temporary registration. There are certain people who do not register even if they are liable to register. So, they have been caught by the officer that they were liable to register, but they have not registered. So, then the officer will grant him a temporary registration for the purpose of tax liability and tax compliance. So, these temporary registered persons, they cannot cancel their registration directly. This is an exception. And even if the registration is done by any party or any person or due to any reason, the liability of tax, the authority of government to collect your taxes is not affected. Till the date of cancellation, till all dues are cleared, even if your registration number is cancelled, you would continue to be liable to tax, interest, penalty, everything. After this, I will take a thing, section 30, revocation of cancellation. Now, suppose my registration is cancelled by the officer. I am in a position to revoke that cancellation. Yani question that cancellation. In form REG 21, I can raise a request for revocation of cancellation, but that has to be done within 30 days from which the order of cancellation has been served on me. After this, proper officer may revoke my cancellation or he may reject my application. Application cannot be rejected without giving an opportunity of being heard. That is, you can give your reasons why you had not filed the registration returns or what was the fraud or whatever is the question. You have to duly answer it, and officer is duty bound to give you an opportunity of being heard. Now, and this is an important thing, revocation of cancellation under CGST will be deemed revocation under SGST. As you know, we have under GST 3 different acts, CGST, SGST and IGST Act. However, you know that anything done in one act is equally good in other two acts. That is, if you're getting a notice under CGST, it is same served under SGST. Same thing stands for cancellation, registration, revocation, and all other things. Next, some points important here I discuss करती हूँ. First is tax is destination based. When you will read the GST supply levy, all those provisions, you will understand that tax is liable on the destination basis. That suppose I am in Maharashtra and my goods are reaching Gujarat. Then as my goods are reaching Gujarat, that tax will be IGST because it is a destination based tax. However, for registration, we see the origin. You have heard this many times that GST is a destination based tax. But then while taking registration, we do not consider the destination, we consider the origin. That is, a business supplier located in Maharashtra, how much supply he is making from Maharashtra, that with that limit and that place of business, that documents, everything will be considered for registration purposes. So even if tax is destination based, registration is origin based. Next is business vertical versus business location. An important amendment had taken place. Earlier it was like this: in a state, if I'm doing various business verticals, take a registration for each such business vertical. Business vertical means various other types of business which I am doing in a particular state. If I am doing two types of business, I was supposed to take a registration for them both. However, there is a certain amendment which has taken place, which has now done away with the concept of business vertical. Concept has got to business location. That means in a state, however, how much ever kind of types of business verticals I am having, I am supposed to take only one registration. So now in a state or union territory, only one GST registration can be taken. Now what has this done? Earlier what used to happen, that if there are various verticals in one state, there were many registrations possible. But now only one registration is possible per state. These are the business models. After this, we'll see what is a GST number. How does a GST number looks? Once you registered, you will be allotted a GST number. So this is a 15-digit GST number. I'll explain you the notations of which. See, first two code. Here I've taken it as 27. 27 is the state code for Maharashtra. So first two digits are always the state code. After that we have A, B, C, D, E, 1, 2, 3, 4, F. This is the income tax PAN number. And after this income tax PAN, whoever is registering for that PAN will be there. For first will be state code, then the PAN, and then this 2 is there. This is for the number of places of this particular state. So for 2, that means in Maharashtra I am having 2 places of business. Now that could extend up to 99. Therefore this Z is kept as a reserve. That if my business place goes to 99, from F to Z it will become F99. And last one is a Q. This is a unique digit which government has kept for its check. Then is composition conversion. If it is a composition, if we are supposed to convert from normal to composition scheme, there are certain conditions for which, under which registration. Composition registration is kind of tax, which is a kind of tax payment system and a return filing system wherein the compliances are a bit less. For example, quarterly returns, then you don't have to keep a track of all input and output. You have to directly pay a flat rate. For example, 1%, or some industries is having 5%. That flat tax is to be paid on the output taxable supplies. So if that is the case, then if you want to take a composition scheme for the ease of compliance to GST, then you have to take it before the starting of the year. For example, if I had to take it for 2021, I had to take it before 31st March. However, due to the current COVID situation, this has extended and you can take it till June. So till June, I have the option that I can go in the composition system of tax payment for the year 2021, but there is one condition, that I should not file any regular returns, that is GSTR 1 3B for 2021. If I file any return, I will become ineligible. I will become ineligible to take the conversion. After this completion of registration, here I have taken the basic points of registration. I have taken a very basic session on GST registration. If you require anything in detail, please let me know. I will definitely cover that. Now I will take up the returns. See, there for regular taxpayer, there are 3 main returns, that is GSTR 1 and GSTR 2. Actually, instead of 1 3B, that it should have been 1, 2 and 3. But due to the compliance fall of the implementation, it has not yet been notified and not yet started. The regular practice is 1(3)(b) and 2(a) till now. What is GSTR 1? In that we give the details of outwards. I'll explain in detail in more next slides. Then is 3(b). 3(b) is a return for transactions and tax payment during a particular month. This is compulsory to be filed in monthly basis. And then third is GSTR 2(a). 2(a) is mainly for our reconciliation purpose. It is not a return to be filed on our own. It is something which is auto-populated by the people, by our vendors, for us to avail the proper credit. Next is, now we'll see GSTR 1 in detail. See, there are two things which we mainly have to give in 1. Firstly, what is to be given in 1? All outward supplies are to be given in GSTR 1. One is B2B and other is B2C. Now B2B, if you see, there is the detail required, as in I have to give every invoice details in the B2B column, and for that I have also an option to give a credit. I made a comparison of here of a B2B and B2C. I'll tell you what it is. B2B is invoice wise and B2C is consolidated. By B2B I mean as in one GST number giving or making a taxable supply to other GST person. That is business to business, B2B. Second is B2C, business to consumer. As I am selling it to ultimate consumers, then that is business to consumer. For that I am not supposed to pass credit to that person, and that is why I am supposed to give a consol. For example, if I have taken 10 invoices of B2B, I am supposed to make 10 entries in GST amount. And B2C, when if I make 100 invoices sale to B2C persons, would it be required to give only one entry, or the entry will be rate wise. If I have multiple rates, then one entry for each rate. Then what is the sale notes are to be given separately for B2B. However, they are to be netted off for B2C. There is no option of giving separate credit notes for B2C. If my taxable supply is 1 lakh and I have made a credit notes of 20,000, I will have to net it to 80,000 and then show it in B2C. B2C make extra option we have, that is large B2C. Now what is large B2C? If you are making a taxable supplies of more than 2.5 lakh to a single consumer, then I should not include it in this B2C consolidated detail in B2C large column, which is there in GSTR 1. And then all other small B2C to be consolidated. Even if that is more than, not a problem, only individually it should not cross 2.5 lakh to qualify for the small B2C. I hope this is clear. If there is any doubt, please let me know. There are certain points that in GSTR 1 we have to take taxable versus exempt supplies both. There is an option that you can give a taxable supplies, and also you are supposed to declare your exempt supplies in table 8. Taxable supplies is B2B, B2C, they have separate tables for it, but exempt supplies are to be declared in table 8. Then there is exports. If you are exporting anything and out of India and the zero rated goods, that is deemed exports, and you are supplying to SEZ etc., that is to be taken in table 6. After this amendments, if you have to make anything, that is to be made in table 9 and 10. Amendments is previously you had uploaded some bills which are now changed due to your error in filing a return or due to any other reason. If you want to amend that, you can take it in table 9 and table 10 of GSTR 1. If you are showing some advances, or if you are supposed to adjust some advances which were made in previous returns, then that has to be done in table 11. HSN summary be uploaded in table 12. HSN is a code which is there for specified goods and services. For each HSN, how much goods sale or you are making, that is to be declared in table 12. However, these details are not mandatory for everyone. Everybody is required according to their turnover, 2 digits, 4 digits, 6 digits, etc. That is compulsory according to the turnover limits. Next is documents issued. Whatever documents you are issuing, how many payment vouchers, how many sales, how many returns, documents issued is table 13. Many people are not uploading these details, but this could be considered as a procedural lapse and which could lead to a general penalty of rupees 50,000. Whatever is applicable to you, just because it is not affecting your tax or not affecting your cash outflow does not mean that you should not enter it, because you are supposed to comply with the law and not comply with the tax. So if you are liable to give it, then you are supposed to definitely give those details. Otherwise, government will put a question mark on you and can waive the clause of general penalty on you. Now we move on to the 3B return. 3B is a very important return in GST era. When you open the 3B tab, you will see that there are certain set of questions which are to be answered. First is, do you want to file a nil return? If you write no to this, then all these other tabs, tab number B to tab number G, will get disabled and you will directly be prompted to OTP verification This is done to give ease to the filers of nil returns. Now, why are nil returns required? What is a nil return? Nil return is where you do not have single taxable supply and you do not have a single taxable single ITC also. That is called a nil return. Nil return does not mean nil tax. It means no transactions at all. So if you have such kind of a return, then you are just required to comply with the law for filing of returns. In that case, you can immediately do this in a one click. Now, if you do not have a nil return, like in most probably all of the cases, it would be you do not want to file a nil return. So, do you want to file a nil return? When you click no, then other options will still be valid and you have to enter it. So, first thing is, have you made any supply of goods or services or received any supplies liable to reverse charge? If that is a yes, please type yes and then go ahead. Next is, have you made any interstate supplies to unregistered persons, composition taxable persons or UIN holders? See, this is most probably people do not fill these details, but it's important to fill the way I told you that if it is required by you by law, that do not consider only the tax impact of it. If you are required, then definitely go and file this. Next is, do you have any claim or reversal of input tax credit on purchase rate of services? That means if you have anything which is input to you, maybe it in form of purchases, expenses or RCM, if you are supposed to take any credit or reverse any credit, then definitely put a yes on this. Next is, have you received any nil rated, exempt or non-GST supplies during the period? This is also being a tax, but I would definitely recommend that if you know, you must have these details and then you have to fill these details. Next is, do you have any interest or late fee carry forward liability? See, if you have filed the last return late, automatically for the next return, the late fee will get auto-populated. This tab most probably comes automatically and then you have to go ahead. Do you have any tax liability due to GST Tran 1? This is system populated and that will not be edited. After this, when you open this first table, you will see outward supplies, then is inward supplies, then is exempt, nil and non-GST supplies, interest and late fee, TDS and BCS credit. When you click yes to all those questions and proceed, you will see this kind of a form and you have to go and input each details. For sales details, you will require to enter both taxable supplies and tax, and for input only tax is required. You need not enter the taxable value. Next, some points of ITC which I will like to cover. Classification of ITC. Many people are aware of this but still do not practice. I don't know why. Classification of ITC means classification into eligible and ineligible. Taken in the slide is block credit under section 17.5. 5 to 6 categories of things are there in blocked credit. So if just a minute. So first thing is classification. That is, I have to classify my ITC into eligible and ineligible. This is important. Not that every invoice which I receive in my company or in my entity name, I am supposed to verify whether it is eligible to me or not. Second thing is apportionment. Now suppose you are making some exempt supplies. Even if all your supplies are eligible under the eligible category, still there are certain things which are you have used for personal purpose or exempt supplies purpose. So you have to apportion that. There are rules for such apportionment and you are make a reversal of such ITC. Make sure you do this, because if you do not reverse it now and then during annual return or during your assessment, the officer does this, you will be liable to huge interest amounts. After this is reverse charge ITC. Now whatever reverse charge I am paying liability, make sure I am eligible to take that credit, which probably I am eligible. However, you have make sure that whenever the time limit is there, I am following that time limit and only then I am taking the credit. Whenever I am paying a liability on reverse charge, in that return itself, that 3B itself, I am allowed to take that reverse charge ITC. After this reversal of ITC, Rule 36.4. What is Rule 36.4? Which was recently done in October 2019, that whatever ITC is reflected in my 2A. Take a minute to explain what is 2A. Now, the way we file GSTR1, our vendors will also file GSTR1 and they will display our GST number on it. So, with that, all consolidating our whatever has come under our GST number, that will form a form 2A. That means whatever supplies I have made, whatever input I have taken, that is genuine, that will be verified by my vendors through 2A. Now in that 2A, there is the rule 36.4. For example, this was a rule that if my 2A is not showing my full credit, I am not supposed to take that credit. I can take a credit which is 20% more of my eligible credit. I'll explain this with the help of an example. See, all I have taken ITC and my vendors have uploaded their risk 1 and that has been populated in my GST 2A. For example, now I have 1000 rupees in my 2A. 1000 rupees. So I can take 1000 into 20%. That is 200 rupees excess ITC, which is not reflecting in my 2A, and my vendors are not filing returns or due to mismatches of reasons whatsoever be the reason. I was allowed to take a 20% more only of whatever is shown in 2A. And after that in January it was amended 9% of 2A. So rule 36.4 is to be taken care of. You have to find those vendors who are not giving you credit, who are not showing it in your GSTR 2A, that is their GSTR 1. So you make sure that you take a call on those vendors. You can hold your payments or you can ask them to file due returns, or then you can decide to take on that vendor. This was the concept of rule 36.4. Block credit I have already discussed with classification, that is section 17.5. I'll give you a brief note on what are the categories under rule section 17.5. So there are certain categories like insurance, then hotel bills. Then these are the categories of things which I cannot take a credit because it is blocked. Vehicle purchase. Suppose I am taking a motor to take a credit on this. It is not in the course of my business. For example, I am engaged in a construction business and I take a motor vehicle. Then I am not eligible to take a credit. It is a block. Only times it is not blocked is when it is in the course of furtherance of my business. For example, I am a car dealer itself. I take car and I sell car. Then I am allowed to take a credit. Next is tax payment. Certain payments are required to be made in cash. For example, reverse charge, that has to be compulsorily made in cash. You cannot use to make that payment. Credit utilization order is shown in rule is given in rule 88A. That is, if you have an IGST credit, first use it against IGST output liability only. After that, you can use it for CGST, SGST in equal manner, in any manner and in any order what you want. And if you have a CGST, it against CGST and then against IGST. It is restricted for SGST. SGST credit is there, first use it against SGST and then against IGST. Do not use it for CGST. So even if this, when you are completing your 3 and going for payment, you will see the order, you can use your optimum order. This is allowed and that is editable. Many people take it as it is not editable. However, you can definitely go and edit it. Next is interest. Interest is something that people are, they file nil returns because they have cash flow issues. And after that, the next month, they will file all their sales bill and etc. Doing this will give you an interest, will give you always a risk of interest which you have to pay because the चल रहा है क्या वीडियो? हाँ, एक मिनट मेरे को मैसेज कर दो ना. नहीं, एक्चुअली मेरा इंटरनेट खत्म हो गया, मैं दूसरे फोन से कर रही हूँ. हाँ, एक बार चेक करेंगे ना. हाँ हाँ ते इंटरनेट संपलं होतं पण चालू आहे का बघा ना आता नंतर. चालू आहे ना. Hello, am I audible? I'm sorry for the technical error which took place. If anybody is there, please tell me if this video is going on. So if you have to transfer it to SGST, then that you can definitely do it through PMT09. If you have to transfer it to SGST, then that you can definitely do it through PMT09. After this, we are taking some regular types of returns. I'll give just a briefing of what are the types of returns. So when enter valid GST and do not go for B2B, make sure that you are doing it in a correct manner. And then is tariff for HSN. That for when you are doing a particular kind of business, make sure that you are using a tariff for HSN. Do not merely go and Google and see that your category is falling in which services. Your category is falling in which services. With that, tariff for HSN is important to know your rate, to know your exemptions. Please use that. That is more healthy. Now is tools for learning. So first thing is GST website, that is www.gst.gov.in. You will get a lot of information, notifications. Go and study this site, understand various tabs if you want to progress in GST. Second is you have a GST help desk and a grievance portal. Make use of this. That you are using this to gain and enhance your knowledge. If there is an issue, please make sure that you are using it to the optimum. Next is GST and YouTube channel. That is YouTube channel which posts videos in various regional languages also, and which is helpful for the taxpayers also. Then you as professionals and as learners can definitely take advantage of it. There are various channels to gain knowledge. You can subscribe to various. Then you can definitely take some certification courses. You can read books, you can stay updated on what has changed before, why it is changed, why it is implemented. So make sure that you go through these mediums so that you can definitely get the best out of GST. I am seriously very sorry for some technical glitch which have taken in between. I am not even sure how much is streamed. But hopefully I could deliver what I was supposed to be. Just a beginner session. It was mainly for the joinee articles or the staff people. I have touched a very basic points. If there is anything else which is to be covered, please do write to me in comments. I will definitely give you a reply. I am not in the position to take the questions right now. However, if there is anything, please comment. I'll definitely reply you through comment. The possible solution which can be done for your queries. One question is there, ma'am, if composition taxpayer didn't file GST return for 1 quarter, then his turnover exceeds limit of composition, whether he will get 6 months limit of non-filing for cancellation. It is there, not necessary that you will always get it. There are people who have not filed returns for 1 year and still they have not got notices. There is a possibility that the officer can do. However, if you have sufficient reasons, you can definitely file and if there is a notice coming to you, you can definitely reply and give your further course of action so that your registration is not cancelled. The three things which I had told, that officer can cancel the registration, can cancel. It is not that he will cancel. It would depend on the case-to-case basis. With this, I come to the end of my session. If there are any doubts, please reach me at my email ID, which I am showing it currently. After this, also try to ask me in queries. If in comments, if there are, I definitely love to answer your queries. After this, if there is anything left off, I'm extremely sorry for that. And if in middle I lost my connection, I'm extremely sorry due to that. Other than that, I thank Pimpri Chinchwad and Pimpri Chinchwad branch of WIRC5CAI and Vikasa Pimpri Chinchwad for giving me this opportunity that I can make the most of my lockdown with giving you knowledge and making you also utilize your lockdown at the best. Please stay safe, everybody.